Heidi ho, spectators, your faithful Spectales hosts here, Jake and the bearded wonder, Jesus. Jesus, how's it going?
It is going phenomenal, if I do say so myself.
Well, you do say so yourself, and I think that's great. Good for you.
Good for us. What are you talking about? That's why it's going great. It's for us.
Good for us. Jesus, we've got a special episode, don't we? This episode this week is very special. Would you call it special? Is that how you describe it?
Some people might describe it as special. I see a lot of people are describing it as special. So yeah, it's a special show.
Well, all you spectators out there now speculating on what might make this special episode so special, speculate no more. We're just going to go ahead and tell you. This week, we've got Lance Linderman and Michael Conrad on. Lance Linderman, if you're familiar, you might remember, he was on about a year ago. He is the new owner of Gold Key, or one of several new owners of Gold Key Comics. And Michael Conrad is very well known for a lot of his writing work on Wonder Woman, Batgirls, and Double Walker, which is a Comixology exclusive. Anyway, so these two wonderful guests didn't just come on just to pal around with us, although we definitely did. They stopped by to drop some really interesting and sweet news. It was pretty sweet. Wouldn't you say sweet news?
Yeah, it's the sweetest of news, if you will, just because you know how I like to be in the know ahead of time. And I knew ahead of a lot of people, which to me is a big deal. But guess what? We're letting everybody in on it in this episode.
Exactly. Now, something that we need to let everybody know, and the reason why we're doing a little bit of an opening for this particular episode, not just because it's super special, Jesus, is because this episode was actually supposed to drop last week on March 16th. So you're going to hear, when you listen to this episode, you're going to hear March 16th over and over and over again. The reason being, that was when it was supposed to drop. Unfortunately, due to a little bit of a delay with regards to Kickstarter and something that you're going to see or hear or learn about in the rest of this episode, because of that, it had to get delayed. Conveniently enough, it got delayed to Wednesday of the week we were going to drop an episode anyway. So, you know, two birds, one stone, right? Is that the phrase? Did I get it right?
Yeah, no, that's not the phrase. It's two beards in one bush.
Nope, moving on. So you're going to hear multiple times that this was supposed to release on March 16th, and the news, I don't want to spoil the news. I want you to get to the episode. I'm not going to spoil the news. So you got to just fast forward or go through, do what you do, and get to that news. But just so you know, this is slightly delayed, but you are still getting it, and it is still breaking news. So without further ado, Jesus,
let's go.
Is episode 76.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectacles, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators? Just when you thought you knew what our wacky new 2023 schedule was, Jesus and I decided to throw you an epic curveball. That's right, we've got another patented Spectales special edition episode coming at you. And this time, we're bringing back a fan favorite. That is right, we're bringing back another edition of What's That Squishy Feeling in My Shoe? Right, Jesus?
Oh, man, I hope not, man. The last time there was green stuff coming out, junk. No, there was a Lego in there, I remember the Lego. Nobody forgets that.
Okay, so we are not actually bringing back WSFS yet. But this week, Jesus and I do have a couple of very special guests, including one returning guest that we are extremely excited to have back. Jesus, on a scale of 1 to beard, how would you rate your excitement level?
Well, since I'm looking at another beard on here that's also considered a 10 at the very least out of 10, I have to say 15, man. This is so exciting. I'm so excited. You know how I get about these things. But yeah, I think we just need to keep it moving.
You want to just keep rolling? All right. Well,
let's do it, man.
All right. Let's start with introducing the returning guests, and also because I really am very excited about the one that comes after. No offense, Lance Linderman, co-owner of Gold Key Comics. Lance, welcome back.
What's up, guys?
And I meant no offense. I meant no offense, but I am a little bit geeking out because our next guest is Michael Conrad, writer of Wonder Woman, Batgirls, and a personal favorite of mine, Comixology exclusive Double Walker.
Oh, I can't believe you're familiar with Double Walker. Yeah, yeah, it's out in print now through Dark Horse. If people don't want to mess with Comixology, or if Comixology messed with you, you can get it in print as well.
That's awesome. I'm glad you phrased it that way.
You know, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds, but I know it's going through some growing pains. So yeah.
I thought you were talking about Dark Horse there.
No, Dark Horse is cool, man. I got it. Dark Horse, please keep messing with me. I love you.
Well, welcome onto the show, both of you. Lance, I didn't mean to skirt by you. There's going to be a lot going on, and we are very excited because you reached out to us to come back, to talk about coming back on because there was some really big news. But Lance, I want to know if you know something. Do you know what? So this episode is dropping on March 16th of 2023. Lance, do you know what you were doing on March 16th of 2022?
Oh man, I mean, I can only guess now that you've said that I was in my garage recording the last episode with you guys. Is that
you were on Spec Tales 1 year ago today? Isn't that kind of insane that it worked out this way?
Yeah, that's wild.
I don't know how that happens,
if you will.
Yeah, it's very serendipitous. I like that movie.
To be honest, man, I'm a little upset that it's taken this long and that I had to be the one to ask to come back on, Jake.
Oh man, got him. Let's go. Thank you, Lance.
Hey Zeus,
I've been telling him.
Do you want to get in on this? Do you want to say how I said maybe we should call Lance and you said we're not calling that asshole? Remember? Do you want to go into this?
That is completely a false narrative. That's fake news. I'm telling you, Lance. I've been wanting to have you on. We have a bunch of ways to get you on. I mean, if I recall, you and Ghost Cactus, right? You guys did something with the LCS recently, right? You guys opened an LCS in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And I told Jake, I said, man, it'd be cool to talk to Lance and see how that's going. Just, see what's going. Jake said, absolutely not. We don't talk to Lance. That's what he said.
I said, I want to wait till there's bigger news coming out of Lance Linderman before.
Sure.
Okay, we've completely derailed, and it's somehow turned into insulting Lance for some reason. Lance, I am so sorry about that.
It's all good,
not
man.
intentional. I think Michael actually started it. Pre-recording, Mike was lacing into you pretty good here. And, I think we just wanted to join in. So all apologies. Thank you both for coming on. We've got a very, very special show for you today, spectators out there. Lance does have some pretty sweet Gold Key news. And for the first time ever on the show, we have a continuation of a Grail tale. The saga continues. Is that what we're going with, Jesus? Is that how we're calling this?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, maybe a cameo, Lance, right? Would you call it a cameo? And this is the full appearance, 180 versus 181. I think that's what we should do.
I mean, a year ago, this issue was not written, man. So whatever's happening now, a lot has evolved and a lot has changed. And I'm sure that we will spend some time talking about that.
Awesome.
For sure.
And we've, of course, got Michael here, who is all prepped and ready to go with his own Grail tale, which we're pretty excited about as well. Nobody gets out of here without giving a Grail tale. Those are the rules. Luckily for us, Michael came prepared.
Yeah, I've spent some time thinking about it, and I've prepared for you what is maybe going to be an award-winning Grail tale.
Holy crap, man.
That's right.
I don't even know what to say.
I didn't say what the award was for. It's for being mundane and boring, but ultimately meaningful to me. But I think it'll win that award. I think
when we tally up the Beard Awards at the end of the season, we'll have to let you know if you'll of course be formally invited to the gala where they will be announced.
The Beard Gala. Yeah, this is the short version.
I just trimmed my winter beard.
I'm prepared or something. I didn't realize this was going to be a beard situation. Then I look at Lance, and Lance is rocking that hard dad mustache, which I love. I think that's a great. I would rock a mustache too, but I got to keep hair on my chin to cover my other multitudinous chins that hide underneath there.
Same. See, beards of a feather.
You say dad mustache. I was thinking porn stash. I think they both they're one and the same almost.
Wow. I mean, maybe in your family, my dad was doing any pornography.
I was thinking Tom Selleck, man, but I mean, to each their own. Jake, what you do behind closed doors, I understand.
I just want to know what that mustache smells like, though.
Oh my god.
A rich mahogany.
Yes,
we said that we would keep it pretty clean, but innuendo goes much further.
We screwed that up pretty good on that one.
I was going to announce that we're starting a children's line of comics with Michael. But now
that's done. Huh?
I just went out the window.
That's actually the second time today that somebody referred to my mustache in light of a porno. So.
You're doing something right.
Yeah.
You're doing something right.
I need to look into it.
When I met Lance, he had a nice tight haircut. I think he might have been wearing a suit.
I wasn't wearing a suit.
As time has gone on, I swear you've gotten more tattoos. You let your hair grow out, grew a mustache. Is that what being a comic book mogul does to you? Just turn into some freak?
I don't know. Do you remember how we met, Mike?
I do. Yeah, and it's kind of a cool story. I told my version of this story the other day. I was doing a podcast with one of the other owners of Gold Key, and he was like, interesting. I've only heard Lance's version of this. So which makes me supremely interested in what weird version you're telling people. But just know I'm going to back your play, no matter how you run it. Like, I'm going to back it up. Like, if you say I chased you out of WonderCon begging you for a job, I'll go with that. But no, I was tabling at WonderCon. This guy came up all frantic. He points to a bunch of things. He's like, I'll get one of them. No sales pitch or anything like that. He was just like, and I was like, cool, you want them signed or blue, doing my usual thing. And he was like, I don't know, just, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, got all his stuff together, put it in his hands. And he's like, thank you so much, dude. Threw a card down on the table and basically took off running. I pick up the card and I see the Gold Key logo on it. And I was just like, hey, wait. And he's like, did that little cartoon screech thing and turned and was like, what? I gotta go. I was like, what is this? And he was like, email me, as he disappeared into the crowd. And I just couldn't believe it because, like every good comic person, I grew up digging in long boxes. And, I was, probably a little after Gold Key's initial heyday, but they cast a long shadow on the whole comics industry. I'm working for Valiant Comics right now, and of course, Valiant was home to several Gold Key properties for a number of really formative years. But in addition to that, I was always a fan of the Boris Karloff anthology and of a number of just some of the weirdo things that they would do with these beautiful painted covers. You would pick it up being like, this cover's amazing. And then you'd open it up and you'd be like, and there's a comic in there too. And that's neat. Glad I got it. But I was just like, this is unbelievable. Pull out my phone, start Google searching Gold Key. And I see a news thing about how this strange person traded a comic book for the Gold Key license, and I was like, that was maybe the most dynamic person I'm going to meet here today. Like, I will email you, strange person who literally came like filling by my booth. I end up following up with Lance, and we became friends almost immediately. We've got very similar backgrounds, and we're both passionate about comics, obviously. But yeah, one of the things that Lance had grabbed from me was this weird mini comic that I made about a guy who was picking stuff out of his skin. It's kind of like a weird body horror comic that I wrote and drew. And he was like, yeah, I really like that one, man. I like that weird one about the guy picking his body apart. I was like, you are an unusual dude, Lance. I almost just swore. You almost made me swear, Lance. But yeah, so that's my version of how Lance and I met.
Oh, that's good, man.
Is that close? Is that pretty accurate?
I mean, it's close. It's close enough. I don't have much to add to it, but I will say that there was, if I could add anything, it was that there's a million. You guys have all been down Artist Alley at a convention. There's so many good artists, but I had my eye out for something very particular. And it was actually Michael's art that I was drawn to first, and I don't know if that was stuff you had done with Becky or that you did on your own.
No, I just drew it on my own. I'll draw something, man.
Yeah.
And artists get paid better than writers. Shoot.
The more we talked and we did connect, it was clear that I had found the guy that I was hoping to really start this whole thing with. So appreciate, that all came together. Yeah.
Very cool. That's a great story. It's a Grail tale in and of itself. We talk about Grail tales all the time, and most of our Grail tales that we've had on the show are usually comic book related, as that's how we ask people, or that's what we request most of the time. But in general, the idea of a Grail tale is just sometimes it's about that moment, or sometimes it's about something bigger, right, than just the book. And in this case, it's we've talked about how a Grail could literally just be the moment that you broke in, or the moment you got that actual event that turned into Boris Karloff or something like that, right? Where it is a bigger moment than just what happened, right? Lance, you bought a couple of books, you dropped your card and you ran off, right? That in and of itself that story could have been told in 3 seconds, like I said, and uneventful, right? But it was so much more than that. Love that story. Thank you for sharing that. Jesus, we usually, so this is a special edition, which for you two, the special edition, and for all you listeners out there, it's just kind of, we make of it whatever the hell we want. We don't necessarily stick to our listeners are very familiar with, we will have usually a recent pickups where we will have Grail tales, and then we will do speculation. And we're kind of going to do that in this one, but because it's special edition, we're kind of making up new rules as we go. But Jesus, are you okay with me pressing this button right here?
No, it's going to make me mad.
Oh, okay. You want me to do it anyway?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Recent pickups.
The unofficial recent pickups segment. This is not, everybody out there, this is not an official recent pickups segment. No trademarks, none of those things. We're going to do some recent pickups anyway. And since it's not traditional, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go first. And it's not really a recent pickup, but this is a book that I read. So last October, I was looking for horror books. But I found one that instantly I was like, oh, this is one of those books you can read once a year during October. When you're into spooky season, if you, like me, I tend to sort of go through seasonal reading, and there's always once a year I get out the spooky books and I like to read them. That's usually October. That's Double Walker. And even though it's not a recently read book, Michael, with having you on, I really wanted to talk about this. This to me was such a fun story. Fun is a weird way to put it, I guess you might say, because of how dark it is. And I generally butcher synopsises, so I'm not going to go out and try to come up with it myself. I'm just going to read a real quick synopsis that I have here. Cully and Gemma's trip to Scotland takes an evil turn in some unexpected ways. By the end of the journey, they'll never be the same. It's a fairy tale that spirals into madness. So that really only scratches the surface, but you've got a couple that are expecting, and they're very excited about expecting a baby, and they decide before they're going to have their child, they're going to take one last trip, and they decide to go to Scotland. Right now, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm loving hearing you describe it. You're making it sound pretty cool, man. I know you just read that, but I'm always interested in what people take away from this book. Because it's kind of a nasty story. I gave a copy of it. Like I said, it came out in print from Dark Horse, and one of my neighbors is this little doddering old lady, and she's so interested in me because I'm a giant, beautiful, heavily tattooed, just Adonis of a man, and I'll walk around in the neighborhood drinking beers and stuff, and she would see me and she would say, "Michael, you told me you write comics. You haven't shown me any of your stuff." And I gave her a copy of this book. And a couple days later, it was there on my porch with a note that says, I'm not in a great headspace for this book right now. Thanks anyway.
Oh my God.
I'm not even kidding. I'm going to post a picture of it on Instagram or something and get my 25 likes. And
oh my God.
Myself.
Did this recently happen?
Yeah, this was like within the past few days.
Oh my God.
And, well,
your children have to avoid your house now.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to bug me anymore. I can't believe she gave it back. Like, just put it in the trash. And then when you see me, be like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Very, very intentful on her
Michael,
part.
can I buy that copy from you? May I?
Yeah, you don't have to buy it. I'll send it to you.
I would love to buy the rejected old lady copy from you. Can I do that? I want. It's a.
She wrote it on its own scrap paper. So
That's
I can either send you that copy that's got her like germs on it.
No. I want the one she specifically rejected. Yeah. I really do. I'd like to make that happen if that's possible.
Just give me your address. I need to get. It's cursed now. I can't hang on to it.
The cursed book. Oh my! I can't wait to have that in my home.
But you might have to send it back to me with a similar note. You're like, dude, I don't know.
And then I will just never talk to you again.
That'll be the end of the budding friendship.
Oh, but it was worth it for the 20 minutes of fame.
And the 25 likes, like you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I gotta get that 25 likes, baby. Double tap that.
Well,
Michael,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
I was just going to. I don't know if it's a compliment anymore. I was going to say that the twisted nature of it. Really, I think the reason I gravitated towards it and read it and liked it, and then immediately said, "I think this is one of my every year reads," is because it reminded me in some ways of my very favorite horror movie, which is The Shining.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
And I just really like how it's just this twisted headspace, this twisted storyline where your brain is focusing on trying to sort through what's happening, and like you sort of start creeping into the insanity that's happening within the pages. And that's what I like about that movie, because you're like, so what's real? What happened? Or like, for me personally, right? You immediately start sympathizing with Jack's character in The Shining, and you're just like, maybe he should kill his family. That's a joke. I am not sympathizing with Jack.
Well, you know what? You know how to talk to a girl, because I love The Shining. It's amazing. I celebrate not just The Shining, but I love all the wacky theories surrounding that movie. Room 237.
That documentary is one of my favorites of all time as well.
It's outstanding. The Shining used to be a thing that I would put on like as I was going to bed back in the day when you watched DVDs.
Yep.
And you own 2 DVDs, and one is Full Metal Jacket, and the other one's The Shining, because you got a 2-pack at Wally World or something. You end up watching The Shining a lot. But yeah, I think Double Walker is kind of reflective of my love of that type of horror, as is most of the horror that I really engage with, which is less about big ghoulish monsters and more about sort of psychological fears. And that certainly stems from prior to working in comics professionally, I worked for 20 plus years in the mental health field, where I was providing services for people with a number of different diagnoses. And during that time, I started feeling like, oh man, I'm losing myself. I worked at mental hospitals and such, and I was like, if I keep doing this and I keep living this type of life, they're going to have to reserve one of these beds for me, and I'll be the one receiving services. So a lot of the horror that I do is about fearing myself and fearing losing core elements of myself in my journey. So I'm glad you picked that up, and I'm glad you liked it. So thank you.
Wow, you are most welcome, and thank you very much for sharing just the story behind that and the book itself. Genuinely like it, and I genuinely recommend it to all of our listeners out there. It's great stuff, especially if you're in the mood for something a little bit on the darker side. And even if you're not, just message Michael on social media and just leave him a note that says, I'm just not in the right headspace for this right now.
That's what Carol did. What works for Carol works for you too.
All right. Well, Lance and Jesus, Michael and I are done with our romance for now. You guys can hop back onto the mics.
I think the existential horror, I think, is kind of what it is, right? Like psychological, existential, and we're big fans of Ice Cream Man here as well. So I'm definitely, I wrote it down. Actually, I just downloaded it while you guys were talking, so I'll be reading that probably tonight. And then I'll be messaging you on Twitter saying, hey, I wasn't in the right headspace, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So
I'll be like, oh, that's what they all say. Oh, shucks.
But I did want to, you mentioned something about, what Jake was saying and how he relates to the writing. And, I've been, I followed you for a while on Twitter just because, you're a writer and I enjoy writing myself and I want to get into that. And one of the things that the reason why I started writing was because of your pinned tweet. And I have to ask you, if I was going to have you on, I have to ask you, you put, this is important. You picked up a comic with your name in it today, Marvel on the cover. Then you came home and you stapled zines that you made at Office Depot. There's no breaking in. They're just making shit. And that's the big lesson that you're learning. That was from 2019. That's 4 years ago now, right? Basically, for the most part. So I just have to ask you, how has that journey been for you, right? Because now there's a lot more stuff with your name on it, right? From DC and stuff we're going to probably announce later in the show. So just how has that journey been?
It's been everything. It's been really exciting and fun, but it's also kind of terrible because I was used to making things that no one ever read. So I could just be like, oh yeah, that's great. My cousin and this guy up the street who likes weird things, they both told me it was good. Now working on, some characters that people have a lot of big expectations for, casting a much bigger net, it's just a broader audience with a lot of people who want different things from the characters. And then you got the editor over here being like, I want this. And then you've got marketing over here being like, we want that. And then you've got standards and practices saying, hey, you went too hard in the paint there. So it's all these things that are just constantly happening that you feel like ultimately has an influence over the story. And then you also get like people reviewing it and being like, these people are hacks. They suck. Or just as bad. It's so embarrassing when someone's like, this is amazing. Give them an Eisner. Just attention can be really poisonous to the creative spirit. I love making comics and I love having a lot of people read them. It's just been a matter of, over these past few years, developing a healthy relationship with understanding that I'm not what I make. That's like a piece of who I am. And whether it lands or doesn't land with people, that doesn't mean that it's not a value judgment on me. It's just that particular thing. That sounds like I'm complaining, but it's, and it kind of is. I think people need to get realistic. If you want to be in pursuit of working on big comics, you also have to understand you're going to deal with people beating you up pretty regularly.
Yeah.
So you only do it if you love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, I definitely, and Jake and I have had this conversation both, I think, on the podcast and off the podcast. But, I think the comics community as a whole, collecting as well, there's just great aspects of it, right? And then there's also those bad aspects of it that just come with the territory, unfortunately. And we've been in it long enough as well. I've been reading for a long time, obviously, and you just get that bad part as well. It just comes with it, and you just have to learn how to deal with it. But that's great coming from you as a writer, understanding that. I mean, I'm sure most writers do understand that, but it's also, you don't get to hear it as often. That's why I wanted to ask that question, because the Wonder Woman stuff, like, there's been so much great stuff, about it, and I've read it as well, and I enjoy it. And then there's been so much like backlash to it as well, like you said, because they have expectations of Wonder Woman as this or Wonder Woman as that. Like, even just, you talking about the size of her, right? Like, they're so picky about the size of how tall she's.
Oh, there was so many arguments internally and externally. The thing about fandoms is it's every fandom now. It's not just, I remember it used to be like, watch out, there's some nasty fans of the X-Men or whatever. Not to pick on X-Men fans. I like the X-Men. But now it's just anything. In Star Wars, we see Star Wars fans being weird sometimes. We see, pick a fandom, and you're gonna get some people going kind of out of pocket with it. I would never try and silence anyone. I would just say, keep in mind that it's all human beings. At the end of the day, it's all human beings. And oftentimes these human beings aren't even able to do the things that they really want to do because they're working for a giant machine. If I say Wonder Woman is this or that, there's somebody over here making a video game or a movie that's like, well, that's not in line with this thing. Can we adjust that in the comics so then I get notes? And it's just complex.
There's a lot of layers to this onion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of inside baseball stuff. And I've tried to kind of dial back the amount of that I share online, because I feel like people think I'm either judging or complaining. But realistically, when I started on this journey in mainstream comics, like you said, in 2019, I wanted to be as open as I could about the whole thing. Like that thing that I said about, I picked up this Marvel comic that I wrote for, and now I'm stapling zines. That was literally what I was doing. That wasn't a figure of speech. I came home and I was stapling some zines from Kinko's. Nice. There is no breaking in. All the time you're on a panel, how do I break into comics? That doesn't exist. Just go make comics. Boom, you broke in. Whether you're making money doing it, that's going to be maybe not entirely in your hands, but maybe
up to Lance, right? Like that's
yeah. At this point, you got to Lance.
Hearing all this makes me realize that I need to be extra careful as to how I treat you and what you turn into me, Mike. I'm a little bit worried about.
Throwing a hot tweet.
You don't
want me coming in hot with the tweets, man.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for. We get a ton of submissions, and I know that there's a lot of writers that are sitting in a place where they're not getting picked up. They want to get picked up, and they're just writing and writing and submitting, and it's really challenging. So I totally hear that, and
yeah,
I talk so much. I warned you all about this. Just real quick, my advice to people who want to write comics is really go write a comic, get with a friend, even if your friend can barely draw, or draw it yourself, and just live with that, and just try and make it as cool as you can, and then get better on the next one, do it yourself. That's the ethic I grew up in, like growing up in punk rock and all this, was just go do it on your own. Everyone else will catch up.
I would add too, though, that from my angle, the more put together a script is or an idea is, the more attractive it is too. If I realize that this person has a very good understanding, a lot of people will just send me a side, a big blah, and it's just like ideas and here, take this idea and turn it into something. And it's like, oh my God, I need stuff that's, really more developed than that, unless we're in a situation where I'm seeking a writer for a particular property. That's a different kind of animal.
You want the exploration. You want to get involved in the exploration. Is that what you're saying? Depending on the project?
Well, yeah, I mean, we get so much that in order for a submission to stand out, I'm just given the recommendation that the more put together it is,
oh, I see,
the more likely it is that we'll really see it and be able to honor our time with it. Because we do try to read everything that does come through.
Nice. Well, that's a little nugget of advice there for everybody. And since this is an unofficial segment of recent pickups, and seeing that I'm the one controlling the buttons over here, and also taking into account that we've got some pretty big news and Grail Tale information coming up, Jesus, I'm going to make the co-executive decision to move along to
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale.
Grail Tale.
I'm a little flat.
You got it.
I tried. I went for it.
That's right, the Grail Tale segment, which is honestly, this is everybody's favorite segment anyway, not just me and Jesus, because we can sit back and listen to incredibly amazing stories. Now, Lance, there is a little bit of news that we're talking about. We mentioned here that there is a continuation of a Grail Tale, so maybe we should recap just a little bit about where we started last year, March 16th of 2022, and then go into a little bit. We haven't really described exactly why Michael is with us in the first place. We kind of, skipped over that little detail. Not that we, aren't going to get to it. So, but Lance, do you mind?
Yeah. I can continue. So for the listeners that were here last year, exactly, to the date, after the Spec Tales podcast released, I woke up to a flood of messages from people all over the place, including my own business partners that were like, "You told them that?" No, I'm kidding. We had, coverage mainly, from CBR and some other places. And what's crazy is, if you guys know me and are familiar with my career in comics, I started in the aftermarket as a reseller or social media mover, if you will, with a very small amount of money and a really generous wife that helped me kind of like start that, which ended in the turtle story, which you guys heard last time, which was just weird, bizarre, and wild. But that led to, once we had Gold Key, what we realized was, and we didn't realize how true it was that having the Gold Key emblem or trademark or whatever you want to call it became an official foot in the door, really, at most conversations. You heard earlier about the effect it had on Michael. And that's gone on from there into other just crazy instances. So never did I realize that, like, for example, you said was it WonderCon that we met at, Mike?
Yeah. Okay.
So shortly after that, I was coming back to, and Mike, you were the one that did you get me into San Diego Con too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So he was like, "Hey, are you going to be up at San Diego Con?" I was like, I wasn't planning on it. He's like, "Well, I've got some extra tickets if you want to go." So we ended up there. And before the night was over, and this is just like a testament to how this Grail Tale has turned out to us. And sorry, Mike, if I say anything, like he said earlier, he can edit it out. So fair warning, audience, you might not get the entire story. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to make people nervous. I'll just say this. By the end of the night at San Diego Con, I found myself hanging out with and partying with Mike. And along that side of that, I'm trying to think, we were in a hotel room with probably 8 or 9 other people, including we'd met James Tinian that night, Scott Snyder, freaking Jock, all sorts of legends that to me, like,
Rom V.
What's that?
It was Rom V. It was kind of like a murderer's row of who's who in comics. It was.
I don't think I've heard of any of those guys.
Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, I was like, bro, you got to get yourself a different podcast.
Arnold made the joke.
This is a comics podcast? You don't know those guys?
I'm sorry, Lance. Go ahead.
No, you're good. The first time we met James Tinian, Mike just kind of sat us down next to him, and then he walked away and was talking to some people. And we introduced ourselves to James, and Arnold was like, never heard of you, man. What have you done? And he was just joking with him. James like kind of shifted a little, like, well, I've done, he started doing this.
I'm gonna see James tomorrow. I'm not even kidding. He's in town. I'm gonna see him tomorrow, and I'm gonna be like, bro, what have you done?
Let him know Jake says hi.
I think he won the Eisner that night too, which was wild. So this was right after he won the Eisner.
He's holding it as he's saying.
Yeah, he's like he's got an armful of them.
Yeah, it was insane. So
he won a crazy amount that night. I think it was like 3, 4, 5, something wild. He cleaned up.
Well, and what's sad is all the other writers that were hopeful were like next to him, and none of them won anything. It felt like so. It was like wars from everybody.
Yeah.
But crazy just to even think that a year ago I was scrounging for change in my car for Jack in the Box tacos, and now I'm hanging out with Michael Conrad and Clunan and Tinian and Scott Snyder and Jock and all these people. And from there, I mean. Remember Bryce over at Boom. I made a great connection with him. He's been a really great asset and friend to me to kind of mentor me in some ways, as well as just some other people in the industry that have been super helpful in what we've been kind of putting together and working on this end. So the Grail Tale continues. And Jake, and I'll say this, we've decided that you guys will forever officially be our first place of announcement, just because you guys were the ones that broke the story the first time. So we will announce something tonight, but there are other projects in the works. I know, Mike, you might know about some of them, but that are just equally as mind-blowing, that we're just amazed that we're even having a conversation or sitting at the table. So,
well, thank you very much, Lance. That's very kind of you. We're big fans of you guys even when you came on last year. Honestly, I mean, you didn't just tell the Grail Tale story, because that was the best part. Was before that, you told the story about the grocery store where you got like 40,000 books in a massive collection. And we constantly, you're getting phone calls because you were on our show. We keep getting messages from listeners that are like, you need to get more stories like that. Remember, Lance had great stories. Go ahead.
Can I share one more real quick then?
Yes. What am I going to tell you? No.
Yeah. So my recent pickup that I was going to say, and I know we moved past it.
Oh, you're good.
I did get another collection, and this one though was a 1990s store that never opened. And did I talk to you guys about this?
No. What?
Okay. So this has been insane. I could show you downstairs in the warehouse. So I had a garage before. Now we've got a warehouse full of stuff. But essentially it was full of complete of distribution packs, if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
Of all books from that era. So there's over 10,000 Spider-Man #1s, Todd McFarlane, untouched, completely untouched. And I think in the last year alone,
are you serious?
I could show you right now, man. It's insane.
You're gonna ruin everyone's value on that thing. You're gonna flip the market.
Honestly, I think I already have. When Todd announced that he was signing, our sales went to over $20,000 worth of Spider-Man #1s that we sold in like a 3-month period. Many of the people even listening are probably going, "Oh my God, I bought that from him on eBay." We just put it on eBay and listed it like forever ending endless quantity. It's still up there today. And not just that book, but Predator #1, just as deep. Guardians of the Galaxy, just as deep. Like all these just crazy kind of $20 to $30 books, just seas of it forever. So it's been a weird and wild trip in that world too. So.
That is a wild tale. I love it. So for those of you who don't know, I often co-write with someone named Becky Clunan, who's a legend in comics. She's also my partner. She's upstairs right now playing Final Fantasy or something. But I was like, yeah, I'm going on this podcast. And she was like, oh, what kind of podcast is it? And I was like, I think it's like collecting stuff. Cause I didn't even know the name of the podcast. Just Lance was like, dude, you want to get on a podcast tonight? And I was like, heck yeah. So now I feel excellent because now I like the way your voices sound. I've got tons of podcasts that I can catch up on.
Nice. Thank you.
But I was like, oh, it's a collector thing. And one of the things is like a grail tale. And I thought a grail tale was like, when did you find like this really valuable comic or something?
And that's part of it. Yeah, for sure.
I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't really go hunting for valuable comics. Sometimes I end up with them or whatever. But I was like, maybe I'll tell them about a time that I got Spider-Man #1, even though I don't have Spider-Man. I was like, the Todd McFarlane one. So now I got to hit a point. I got to buy it off Lance on eBay. It's ridiculous. I can't believe this. Lance owns them all.
I cornered the market. He cornered the market on it.
The largest collection of Spider-Man #1.
I would love to see a picture of your Spider-Man #1.
We thought about covering the floor and doing an aerial shot of it. That's
man, like a drone shot.
Just lay amongst them, American Beauty style.
Lance, better idea. Do a mosaic out of them.
Yeah,
do the big floor with the mosaic of Spider-Man #1.
Light some on fire. Save us. We're trying to. Some of us want to flip our thing.
Yeah. Feel me? If there's any, publishing companies out there that want to trade the rights to their company for my Spider-Man 1s, just give me a call, please.
The world's largest collection of Spider-Man #1s is up for trades right now, folks.
We're looking at you, Kamiko. We're looking at you. Malibu. We're going for it.
Atlas.
Dell. We need to get a hold of Dell.
Yeah.
Did I tell you the Dell story?
You did actually last year. I still will think about that whenever I see a Dell comic. I was like, be a lot cooler if it was Dell.
I can't wait to dip back 1 year ago on Spec Tales and hear Lance before Lance hit that next level.
Yeah,
I want to hear a humble Lance.
No mustache Lance.
I don't know. I just
pre-mustache.
flipped phones. Yeah, still had a tight haircut, no mustache, no tattoos. I'm gonna check that one out.
No tattoos. That's okay.
So Lance, catch us. So we're getting close, right? Bring us to modern days, where you're at.
So I mean, can I just?
Yeah. Let's do the thing.
So officially, and this is something that shortly after I met Michael, got on the phone with him about and started talking and dreaming about. But essentially, all of us are big horror fans. We love horror. I mean, obviously, Michael Conrad is a great fit when it comes to that. But so one of the things we wanted to lead with in Gold Key was we felt it was important that we found and acquired the rights to a property that was a part of Gold Key of the past. And so just officially, we haven't announced, and I'm just officially announcing now that there is a new series coming out. Our first series will be Boris Karloff's Gold Key Mysteries. So what used to be Tales of Mystery is now dubbed Gold Key Mysteries, slight name change there. But an anthology is coming out. Boris is back 40 years from the dead, if you will. And achieving that has been kind of a fun and interesting thing in and of itself. So I don't know how else to say that other than basically we reached out to Sarah Karloff, who is Boris's daughter, and she's this sweet woman. She got back to us. In fact, I'll be with her on Sunday night. She wanted to make sure that she was well stocked on beers for me. And we're going to be talking with her and interviewing with her and capturing some cool footage on that. So it's been really tight to be hanging out with kind of a legend in the monster horror realm. And so we are going to be releasing Boris Karloff Gold Key Mysteries, and that comes out on that'll officially go out online when you hear this podcast. we're going to literally click live, like as we're listening to it too for the first time. So Jake and Jesus are going to have to let us know, hey, we're getting ready to go live with this thing. We're going to initially release it through a Kickstarter. So it will be Kickstarted first through a kind of gold key edition that is special and different from the first book. So, so go right now if you're listening and check out that Kickstarter, if you will.
So you're going to do a special edition book that you can only get through this specific Kickstarter campaign.
Exactly.
Oh.
So the first thing that we do will be that, and it's going to be more anchored in, the art, some of the coming up of the art, different artist notes will be enlisted throughout the book. It'll be a much nicer book too. It's going to be leather bound and all those fancy things. Not actually leather bound, but there will be a cover and a slip case, all those fun things. So it'll be a really beautiful book for you guys to get into. So it'll be the first one. We want to do the first one special. And it'll have extra notes and extra things, which you guys can go check out right now as you hear this.
What tier do I have to get in on in order to have lunch with Michael Conrad?
That's a good one.
Dang.
Where do you live?
Not close. I'm in Nebraska.
Nebraska? I mean, I'll have lunch with you if you come to me. You got to come to me, baby. No, I'll go to Nebraska. I don't know, $5, $10. Taco Bell, you buying? Bean burritos, no cheese. Let's party.
We can make ourselves a deal that whoever goes to the other one gets a free lunch. Well, I'll make that deal with you.
I mean, we could all just meet in Phoenix, and
Lance is he's doing everything he can to get people to go down to Arizona. You gotta just make sure you got the AC going. I can't deal with that heat. I'd be hot blooded. I don't want to be sweating on your things.
Yeah.
Well, first things first, we got to launch the Kickstarter. I was just trying to figure out, where that tier would be at, because
we'll have to talk about that. That might be a stretch goal.
So speaking of tiers and Kickstarter, Jake, you had kind of mentioned something. I don't want to put you on the spot, but Jesus, hopefully he ran this past you, but he volunteered custom, maybe some stickers and some swag or something like that. We're going to figure something out to where we can include into the packages some Spec Tales goodies, because I think you guys really are a part of the story. I mean, the launch of that news, being a podcast, being friends of ours now at this point, love to wear the t-shirt of Spec Tales too and let people know about that. So if you guys want to send some stuff our way, we will absolutely include it in.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. We wouldn't presume, I guess, that we're part of that story. So we thank you for saying that as well. But we just enjoy comic books and comic making as well. So like when you mentioned this Kickstarter, I'm super excited about it as a comic fan and as a comic reader. One, I'm just like Jake. I like horror comic books. You're seeing a horror book that I have here that was going to be my recent pickup before Jake cut me off because he always wants all the shine. So I'm not even going to talk about it. But I love horror comics. And then also I love collecting books. I have a Captain Britain #1 right here because I'm a collector as well. So I'm going to collect this special Kickstarter gold key. I'm going to try to get the $5 so I can have that lunch with Michael.
Gotta hit that $5. Not a cheap date, all right?
Well, I'm going to ask you not to put cheese on the burritos, man, because it has to stretch for both of us in that lunch. I'll bring my own cheese this time.
And by the way, just to pump it up too, and Mike, you might be able to speak more into this, but because it's an anthology, it's not just Michael working on the book. There's a lot of other incredible creators that are part of it too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steve Orlando. He's done work on, I don't even know, Batman, Justice.
Yeah, you name it. At both the big two. He's been doing a lot of stuff over at Marvel lately, doing stuff with a lot of mutants. He did a Man-Thing that I love. Actually, right here, I love Steve Orlando so much. I keep this book right here, his Martian Manhunter, which I like very much.
Nice.
So it's cool having Steve come on, tell a story.
In fact, you might even be able to speak better really to the artist that's taking lead on the Boris stuff, which I'm almost wondering, there might be something worth talking about there too. Like how are we going to see Boris? Who's drawing for Boris? Jake, am I taking all your questions away? I mean, I'll just
no, not at all. I'm loving the information. I guess maybe one question I would have would be, so Kickstarter is, we know that's coming right out on March 16th, the day that this episode is dropping. You should be looking at Kickstarter right now if you haven't. But what's the timeline, I guess, for when does the series really ramp up and go?
Sure. So our hope is to do the Kickstarter and fulfill it. It will be not officially it won't be a totally complete edition in the sense that the art and the words are going to be separated from each other. So you'll have art on one page and writing on another page, and there'll be other things going on. But so to get the full effect, not every page you're going to get all the full color work. You might get some of the early sketches, but you'll see like a good picture, and there'll be other ways to interact with the book. Once that's out, and the reason is I would hate, if I went and collect back this, you know what I mean? I want to get that book before it's just out in the direct market, if you will. So it's going to be a really close fulfillment date, and the release in the direct market will be as close as possible as we can, because we want to keep the momentum going on it. But, we fully intend to go deep on this dive and treat it for a while.
Good.
And do more special things as the book comes out. So
I think Lance is being real careful with this answer, because in terms of fulfillment, we've seen a lot of Kickstarters say you're going to get it in a month or two, and then fall short of that. At the time of recording this is a big discussion internally with the Gold Key guys of figuring out what can we promise on this campaign and actually be able to meet, because integrity is such a huge part of what Gold Key is built on, at least this iteration. So I think Lance is being real careful with that response. At the time that this airs, though, the Kickstarter will be live. You can go there and you can get all those answers.
Wonderful.
And of course, we're available on social media if you've got any other questions like that.
Yeah, and from a creative standpoint, it is pretty much done. So it's really going to be, once the launch goes through, we will be sending it to print and working on sending it to you guys ASAP. And from the direct market standpoint, immediately, even before the Kickstarter is over, I'm already working on marketing details for the direct to market retail experiences and all that sort of stuff. So
awesome.
Can't wait to hear more about that when the news is official.
So I did have a question, the behind baseball or inside baseball kind of question for you, Lance. And also, I guess Michael can add to it as well. But, how long has this process, taken or been in place, and how was it, adding, because you're saying it's an anthology, right? So how long did it take to add the right pieces to the puzzle of this finished anthology?
Well, so that's funny. A long time, honestly. I mean, I'm trying to think of our first conversation about it, Mike. You would have actually been the first person I talked to outside of the Gold Key team. Yeah. And Mike was actually integral in bringing in our editor, who's been amazing, to help us work on the particular project. So do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I think I've got a pretty good grip on it, just because it's been scary. Making comics is impossible. I've been a part of a number of anthologies, and I've also self-published anthologies with friends. So I knew when Lance was saying, "Hey, we got, we're going to do Karloff. It'll be quick and easy. It's an anthology." I knew it's the hardest thing in the world, because you're herding cats. Everyone's got their own pace that they're going to work at. So you can say theoretically, we're going to start now. All these different teams are going to start working now and complete their projects, and away we go. In a month we got this easy. That's just not the case. The fact of the matter is, we've got some we've got some talent on this book that we're tied up with other projects. So we wanted to make sure that we were bringing some heavy hitters with every issue of this that we do, but particularly with the first one. It was really important to all of us to bring some really incredible people, and sometimes that takes waiting a little bit until you get a little spot in their schedule, and that's for the writer and the artist. Good artists are hard to find, and they're even harder to find when they are good, because they're probably working on something else right now.
Yeah.
So I think we started formulating the idea around the time shortly after, maybe a couple months after WonderCon, so maybe fall of last year, and then we really started going heavy at it in the winter. So I'd say, maybe 6 months of actual like real production time, once you determine who's going to be involved in the book and such. Bringing in Zane Barrow, who's the editor, has been really critical because he's been able to be getting everyone on a timeline, thinking about issue 2, tying things together for the Kickstarter, doing all the stuff that, frankly, the folks at Gold Key Internal don't really have the time to be worrying about. Like, there's so many other parts of production that when it comes to developing schedules and keeping tabs on 3 or 4 different teams, each consisting of 3 or 4 people, it's just impossible. So big shout out to Big Bad Zane on that for getting that going.
Yeah,
once you figure out the recipe, it's like your cook time goes down every time after that, because you've figured out, okay, we understand now the weird neurotic places that people go when push comes to shove. So I think we've developed a better lead time on future issues.
Very cool. I know it's something, it's, what do they say? Rome wasn't built in a week, or Jesus. Is that right? Did I get that one right?
Rome's roads were built 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, Rome was built 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah. With 30 net, I think is what it was.
Well, I can't wait to explore the Kickstarter page, and of course I'm going to get in on it. I'm excited about that. And honestly, Lance, when we talked, I definitely I full on floated that we would love to throw some Spectail stuff in get it involved. One of the things, Lance, that we have a mascot, Lance. I'm not sure if you're familiar with JJ. I
take it back. I take the whole thing back.
Oh, shit.
Go ahead. Who's JJ, man?
He is our spectator tot. So a long time ago, we came up with our listeners, our spectators, and then we just somehow turned it into a tater tot. And so our mascot is JJ, the spectator tot. And we got him designed up. Lance, I sent you a text actually with several versions. So we figured out that not only JJ, the spectator tot, which I'm going to, for your viewing pleasure, Michael.
That's amazing.
But yes. we started figuring out that JJ could dress up like different characters. So I'm now showing multiple versions of JJ for everybody listening on this radio.
This is great.
This is good audio entertainment.
I'm having a blast, and you'll never know how beautiful these things that I get to see are. And you at home, you're on your way to work, or maybe you're cooking dinner or folding some laundry. You don't get to enjoy this. I get this. I win again. You lose.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's very thoughtful, man. It looks the art actually looks really great too. So it's awesome.
Something that we might be thinking about is I'm just spitballing. Like, we're spitballing out loud here. This is uncharted territory.
Oh, wow.
But we might do a custom JJ for your Kickstarter, right? JJ already dresses up like different comic book characters. Maybe a Boris Karloff JJ.
Oh man, if we could get a Boris JJ, I would flip out, man. That'd be awesome.
We might be able to figure something out like that, and we can make it exclusive to this Gold Key Kickstarter. Where if you don't get in on it, nobody.
You're not a collector.
It's not.
And oddly, I've been planning my face tattoo. So I'll tell you what, if somebody wants to back at $20K, I'll get JJ tattooed on my cheek. It'll be amazing.
I'll get him on my other cheek.
I get at $20K.
Also, there's two $20K levels. One is for Lance and one is for Michael. So you guys get to choose which one you want to put it on.
I think Michael's has to be 20,005 because you got to get that. You got to get that lunch.
Yeah,
you got to get the 5 for the lunch.
You got to catch me at the local Taco Bell with that good job-ending tattoo.
Hey, if you get JJ tattooed on your cheek, you have a permanent. Well, it's not we can't pay you, but you have a permanent seat on the show at that point.
Heck, yeah. I mean, money would be even better, but you know what? If I can podcast with you guys,
it's
cool.
The all-elusive exposure, as they say. Like, that's how.
Yeah. I mean, it pays for itself. When I get all my spectators out there coming through for what I do, trying to get with the kid, hang out with that guy with that W in the middle of his name. We really hope that W stands for win, by the way. Winning.
Nice.
Always
over here, like Curly Sheen now.
Tiger blood.
No, we hope that you all show up for this Karloff book. It's really been a passion project. It's not something that we take lightly. It's a huge burden, really. It's a legacy. And to know Boris Karloff's only child has signed off on this, it's something that none of us have taken lightly, and we're really trying to bring our A game with it. And I think when you click on over to the Kickstarter, you're going to see some samples of what's coming, and you're going to be blown away. I don't have to gas it up. Like it will do its own thing. Like you take a look at it and you will do the right thing. I'm confident in that.
So I mean, I'm obviously sold. Thank you. You know, I didn't know you were a salesman as well, Michael. So thank you for that.
Oh, also, if I could get you in this Volkswagen Passat,
I'm more the timeshare guy. So if you had a timeshare to
sure you are. I can't entrust you in this '98 Kia Selantro. This thing whips. 3-cylinder. 4 on the floor, baby.
3-cylinder? Is it a rotary engine?
You gotta wind up the rubber band, but it goes, man. It goes.
But I did have a question for you because you mentioned this. So this is the question that came to mind was you said it's a legacy, and I always like to ask this question whenever it's legacy characters or legacy, with a huge history, right? Like I forgot who we had on that we talked to about legacy, but is it a weight? Is it, like you mentioned, it's a burden? Does that change your mindset on how you look at this and how you plan out your story, or you plan out your stories, or that's going to be representing this legacy? Like, is that something that you feel when you're writing?
Yeah. But not in a constrictive way, not in a way that makes it feel like, oh, I can't, because I don't want to give away too much. But so the way that we're approaching this anthology is there's an ongoing story being told within the anthology, and that involves Boris Karloff himself directly. And then included in that anthology are these standalone creator-owned stories that may or may not be connected to the overarching story of Karloff. Tune in and find out next week, kind of thing. So I've found myself having the honor of presenting Karloff and how he's going to appear on the page. It required a bunch of research. I want to get his voice right. I want to get his. And I mean him as a person, not as the characters that he played. As iconic as they are, we were interested in dealing with Karloff and what he can contribute. So taking that and spinning it in a fantastical and scary and honestly kind of messed up way, while also not presenting Karloff as this terrible person, because he wasn't. He was a real sweet guy. So it's like, man, how do we do that? We found a way to do it, and I just hope that people show up for it.
I think that's one of the most exciting pieces for me is really that we didn't want to just bring him back in kind of the Rod Serling fashion, but we wanted to also bring him back to life a little bit through the art of story. So it's been very fun on my end to see that come alive a little bit, and even see like Sarah Karloff interact with that too, which I can't wait to meet with her on Sunday and dig more into that. But it's been really cool. So.
That's awesome.
She didn't want to meet with me. I asked if I could come, and she said nah.
She wasn't in the headspace.
We wanted to get Kelly down there, but apparently he lives like east of the Mississippi or something. Because we thought, he's drawing her or drawing for us. We thought that would be a lot of fun to get him in on that, but didn't work out.
I think that sounds pretty incredible, and just the amount of detail and the attention clearly that you guys gave to not just the stories that you were weaving, but also your protagonist, your main character, your storyteller of sorts, Boris, and how that character or that human, that guy, really plays into your overarching story. So it sounds like you guys put a lot of thought into it. All you spectators out there, everybody listening, if you haven't gone over to Kickstarter, I'm going to Lance, I'll figure it out. We're going to figure this out after we get off this. I'm going to figure out how I can get your Kickstarter link into the show notes of this episode. And then we will, of course, be blasting that Kickstarter all over our social, along with, I'm assuming you'll be putting it on yours as well. And
don't forget to put it on CBR again. Okay.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and I'll just upload that myself.
Yeah. Just press the button, the CBR button, just
the CBR one. Yeah. I'll uncover that button and we'll figure it out. All that said, I think we need to close this thing out with our final segment, guys. We need to get this thing going into speculation. I hope you're all in the right headspace, because we're in the speculation segment. It's a little creepy. It's a little uncertain, this world of comic book speculation. But if you were paying attention 1 year ago today, you would already own at least one original Boris Karloff Gold Key books from the original run, because we said it a year ago. Lance, I'm pretty sure you'd mentioned to get hands. I don't know if you were as specific as saying Boris Karloff. I don't recall if you got that specific, but I believe you hinted it would be wise to get your hands on some of the original Boris Karloff books, or Gold Key books in general, as some of those characters are returning. Sure. I don't mean to take your thunder, but that's what we said a year ago. Is how much of that has changed, or you got any new information that you want to toss out to the spectators out there?
No, I would say that a year later, I'm still proudly saying, go pick up some Boris issues. Yep. I forgot that I did kind of do that.
I don't know if you, I don't know. I can't remember. Jesus, did he specifically say Boris a year ago?
He said it, but he said that, I think at that time you were trying to talk to the estate or something of that nature. But it did, because it got picked up, it did hit, I think, Key Collector, and it did kind of spike in price at that time.
Did it now? I don't remember.
I think what happened was I said that we were close to landing that property, but hadn't yet, or something like that. But yeah, I mean, my speculation is to, I would, a shameless plug, but like we said, go pick this up when it comes out. I mean, it's going to be the first in 40 years that Gold Key's put out a published, book. So we're very excited. The hit list of writers and artists we have working on it, and characters that we're going to be introducing is pretty large. So it'll be just a big, I don't want to be quoted for saying it, but orgy of creators just coming out all at once. You know what I mean? So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, and I second that. And I also say get Walking Dead #1 if you can get your hands on that. I believe in that book. I think it could go Walking Dead, first appearance of Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not much of a collector, but there's a few things I know. Get it if you can get it while it getting's good, as they say. Well, buy low, sell high. What do you guys say? I want to hear from some. And don't say. Listen, everybody, we're counting on you to go back Karloff on Kickstarter, and I do believe that book will appreciate in value. But what do you fools say? What do you guys think is a good investment right now? I'm trying to invest.
Hey Zeus, I'll let you go. Do you want to go? I've got one. If you want to take another minute.
I mean, I don't have one, but I can just tell you off the top of my head. Wonder Woman 799 and 800, which is
that's cool right here. Yeah, that's going to be Becky and I signing off on our nearly 3 years of working on Wonder Woman. It's been amazing. 799 and 800 are going to be really special. It's kind of I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but it's kind of like whatever happened to the Cape Crusader and whatever happened to this guy or that. These kind of celebrations of the character as a whole. They're going to be extended dance mix versions of the comic, so there will be extra pages, and you'll get your first taste of Tom King, who's going to be taking over Wonder Woman when we step off. So you're going to want to check. You're going to want to check those books out if you're interested in what the future holds for Wonder Woman. Good call. Good call.
See, there you go. Nice. Good thinking, Jesus. Off the top of the noggin like that. I'm going to go with. What do you got? Sorry, did I cut you off?
I was just saying that was Swift. I'll add to that, Exo Manowar #1. I think that's going to bang. Or by Liam Sharp, written by the kid sitting right here. It's going to be all right. It's going to be a good book.
Nice.
Yeah, speculating on these things. I'm a spectator.
Yeah, well, everybody's got a little spectator in them for sure. I'm going to go with one that I know we've talked about a little bit, Jesus, and it's always fun when a book seems to still remain under the radar, even though the second season of a series is about to drop. I'm talking about Sweet Tooth #1. This is not, while it is not a dirt cheap book, I still think, this is a series that is gaining popularity. Season 2 is going to gather even more fans because it is such an interesting and unique story that I just, Jeff Lemire's storytelling in it is great, and he is extremely active with the show. Netflix doesn't always have the greatest track record. But I do believe that when the creators are heavily involved in the shows, that's when they find more success. That's when the shows are received better because they don't deviate as much. And Jeff seems to be extremely active in the production of this show. And I think that it's only going to get better. So I would highly recommend go looking, seeing if you can find yourself a nice copy of that book, as it'll have legs for the future. I don't know if it's in the near future or if it's, long term, but I think it's got a little bit of both. So
piggybacking off that, if you can find some early printings of Essex County, Jeff's got that show coming too. That book's just outstanding anyway, and I love Sweet Tooth as well. So. Yeah, those are great books to pick up. Not that Jeff needs any help. I don't want to be here. He's fine. He's over there fine. I'm worried about me right now. I'm worried about that Boris Karloff, baby. Let's do this. Okay.
And to piggyback off the piggyback, Sweet Tooth has only had 18,000 roughly orders of the #1, which I think they're all in Nance's basement or warehouse at this point as well. So
I actually do have some copies of it. It's crazy.
Of course he does.
And then the other issues, like issue 2, 3, I mean, you're talking about under 12,000 copies. I think the last issue was under 8,000 or around 8,000 copies. So, I mean, it's a pretty scarce book, if you will.
Scarce.
So I would definitely check it out. I think I have one a reader copy somewhere that I read. But I haven't done anything as far as trying to collect it or anything of that nature. And me and my wife did like the Netflix show. It did have some high points, some decent points on it. So I'm glad that it's coming back for at least season 2. And if I'm not mistaken, they said season 3 as well. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, if I could throw one in the mix that's not Boris related too, I would do a shout out. There's a guy named Jay Stevens. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he has a book. He did Jet Cat. If you guys saw or heard about that, which was optioned, but there's a book he has called Dwellings, and I just think everything the guy does is very, very well done and really cool. So I see him going places for sure, and everything he puts out that I've dug into has been just very good. So check out Jay Stevens comics, or Dwellings is the book really that I would recommend you pick up. Dwellings. I
just wrote that down. I'm going to take a look at that. Sounds interesting. Awesome. All right, guys. Nice. Well, an hour and 20 minutes later, everybody survived. Lance, we stopped talking about the mustache long enough to talk about Gold Key. And Michael, I feel like we're now officially best friends. And hey, Zeus, if your beard ever needs a night off, I don't mean to replace you, but it sounds like Michael is getting the tattoo. So
if it was anybody else, I would have umbrage. But since it's Michael and we're gonna share a $5 bean burrito meal, then I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, Jake.
Yeah, value menu, baby. Like a couple of those special Mountain Dews that you can only get at TV. What are they called? Mountain Dew?
Baja Blast.
Baja Blast.
Yeah, we're going to Baja Blast it together.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Lance, thank you for reaching out and for shaking us awake. And realizing that we should be having you on monthly instead of yearly. So we really, really appreciate it. And for you bringing this news to us, because it's very exciting. I can't wait to jump on that Kickstarter myself and see how high we can get that number. Because higher is better, right? The higher the number?
Higher is better. And the higher it goes, the sooner I'll be back on to announce new properties that have come into the Gold Key family. So
nice.
Awesome.
Let's go. Let's do it, guys. Y'all heard that, spectators. You got to show up.
Yep. Show up, everybody. That is going to do it for this special edition episode of Spectales. Thank you, everybody else out there, for listening. We always appreciate what you guys do and listening and chiming in on all of our social media and emails and things like that. So thanks, everybody. And we will see you all again next week.